Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. That's right. We're starting off with the double salute. Boom, boom. Another double salute because I appreciate you. Welcome to the show. This is the Weekly Spinner Rack, and I'm your host, Chris. Lovely to have you all here. Let's take a look at the chat and just welcome a few folks that are in here early. Let's see. Hello to who we've got here. I see Big Gay Dave, and I see Dr. Shoebill. I see Matt Edwards. You guys are seen. I see you all. Hello to Clay and Zach. Let's see. Oh, it's going fast now. I can't catch everybody. Hello, Sean. Lovely to have you all here. Hello, John. I always love to give a few shout outs to the first few people that are in here. Lovely. Thank you all for being here. Let's see. The bit rate is awful. Okay, so that's not exactly how I love to start the show, but here we go. So I'm obviously trying to make some improvements. I've got a better microphone as of last week, and so at least the audio should be coming through pretty clear to you guys. I don't know if you can tell, but I've got a different camera that I'm speaking to you all through, and hopefully that's fairly good for color and stuff. I don't necessarily need to have this bright light on that sort of washes everything out. Now, as far as like the bit rate and a little bit of hiccups, buffering and stuff like that, I've looked into that. The issue seems to be that I need to upgrade my internet speed for uploads because I've been performing some tests and it's performing with what I paid for. But yeah, it looks like I do need to potentially improve that. So a little bit more of a monthly expense, but I would say it's worth it. Thank you, by the way, Kevin Connor. Sincerely appreciate that. Looks like it's catching up nicely. Always awesome to have you here, Mike. Hell of an artist, guy I've known for a long, long time. Great guy, great artist. Let's see. Audio is quite good. Well, that's nice to hear. That's nice to hear. Hello, Chrissy. Nice to see you. And I'm sure that my sister's in there somewhere. I'm sorry if I missed you, Jeannie. Let's see. Hello, Moritaka. Video seems to be catching up. Okay. Yeah, upload speed is important. I agree. Download speeds have always been plenty strong. We can stream all sorts of stuff. Looks like my upload speeds, what you ideally want is something more like 10 Mbps, and mine is clocking in closer to 5. So I don't know why I seem to go a full year without any issues. I guess I was getting better service than what I was paying for a while. Now I'm getting what I paid for. Oh, we've got a here saying, why haven't gotten any good Superwoman comic book series? Your guess is as good as mine, although this year I would say there was an exceptional Supergirl series by Tom King and Bilquis Evely. Just incredible. Probably going to make my top 10 comics of the year, which is something I've, of course, always working on. I always like to just do that. A little bit of an easier episode for me in terms of production, but I put a lot of thought into like what I'm going to say like was my personal favorite 10 of the year, and at least it hopefully gets a fun conversation started with people saying like, hey, disagree with you on this one, but have you checked out this? It's good for people to be passionate. Hey, speaking of Tom King, Andrew Jefferson with his super chat saying excited for Tom King's new Lady Cop book this week. If that's a real thing, I hadn't heard about that yet. If it's real, I'm absolutely excited. You know, you guys know I did a Lady Cop episode. The original book, not that great. It was during a time when there was no such thing as policewomen. And so the whole gimmick was a cop, but she's a lady. And yeah, people went to sleep. It did not do well. It did not do well at all. But it is part of the DC comic universe. Oh, okay. A bunch of people telling me that it is real. Danger Street. All right. Right on. I would love to read that. Tom King's been knocking it out of the park with his 12-issue series that he does at DC. So yeah, totally in on that. Do I have any Tom King today? I don't think I've got any Tom King comics to talk about today. But what we do have is a bunch of quick reviews of the things that I've read this week, and then a bunch of interesting comic book news. I think I've done enough of this preamble, like just crap. I think you guys are probably sick of it. I totally understand and respect that. Let's get into the show proper. Boom. Another camera, please. Thank you. Me. I'm a great producer. First book that I read this week, and I know people are going to have some divisive opinions on this. This is Batman 130, the end of the first arc by the creative team of Chip Zdarsky and Jorge Jimenez. I like this. All I'm going to say, like, Batman is basically fighting a robot called Failsafe who's determined to take Batman down, okay? That's all you really need to know. And the way the last issue ended, Batman was having a fight with it on the Justice League watchtower on the moon, which exploded. Batman was able to escape that, but he's now being hurled through space without any real, he's not in a spaceship or a pressurized suit or anything. He just has like a face mask. How is he going to survive this? This is so over the top, but I loved it. This is Batman problem solving quickly. He uses his grappling gun to sort of aim him towards a sort of a rocket booster that he sees in the wreckage. And he uses that to sort of hit it on and off and aim himself for the planet. He goes through re-entry, again, like no equipment really or anything. He just has to like figure out the right speed and angle to get to. This is how smart he is. And not only that, he aims himself to land towards the Fortress of Solitude, where he can get some help from Superman. A fall from outer space? I'm sorry. I know a lot of people think, hey, Batman is supposed to be just a man. That's too much. But this is superhero comics. And there are plenty of great stories where Batman is just a detective stopping serial killers and stuff. Sometimes I really like it when Batman does this stuff. It puts him on another level, and Batman, I think, should often be on that other level. Batman he's a versatile character. He can work in a lot of on top of that, as he's going through re-entry, his mask breaks. He pulls the trunks off of his suit, and he puts his trunks over his face so that he can breathe, basically. He's like, I told Clark the trunks had a purpose. Anyway, he lands, and then on top of that, he's going to go up against this robot, Failsafe, right? But he's got Tim Drake there, and it talks just about how cool they are as Batman and Robin. He goes like, this thing is designed to defeat Batman, but it doesn't stand a chance against Batman and Robin. Damn right. I think that this is fun, folks. I thought this was fun. So anyway, big ad for Batman Spawn, which we'll talk about next week. And they just work really well together. Not going to give away how it ends, because guess what? It does end on a bit of a cliffhanger, which I guess will take us into the next arc. There's also a backup story in this that's really cool. It's been about the story of how Batman created his backup emergency personality, Batman Zur-En-Arrh, in case anyone ever tries to mind control him. And the artwork here is done in a very retro style. Who is the artist here? Let me skip to the last page. I want to get his name right. But it reminds me of something specific. Okay, artist here is Leonardo Romero. Good guess, he's Italian. Who knows? I'm using my Batman detective skills. They're not quite up to Bruce Wayne's. But this looks gorgeous. I would love to see more by this artist. Really reminds me of David Mazzucchelli's work on Batman Year One, which I think is, in my opinion, I'm saying that as a high compliment, I think. So, here we go. Thank you, Victor. Is this in continuity with the Kevin Smith Year One story? Are these the same trunks that Batman peed in? Presumably, Bruce Wayne does have enough money to afford more than one pair of trunks. I think if he peed in a Batman suit, as Kevin Smith would have us believe, he'd probably be able to afford a new Batman suit. Probably. We don't know for sure. Could be something he's into. No shaming, Batman. Anyway, a good issue. I thought that was fun. I know not everybody will love how sort of over the top that is, but I loved it. John Dorsey, thank you for the super chat. Obligatory Jimenez art pimp post. I love this run so much. Chip Bat is solid. Yeah, I think it's very solid too. I would love to see Chip Zdarsky tackle a good mystery in his run, because I do think he writes crime very well. So I'm hopeful. And I'd also love to see something like that touches on the light of Batman, because Chip is a very versatile writer, and Jorge Jimenez knocking it out of the park. Is this going to be my pick of the week? I think this will be my pick of the week, actually. Final issue of Do a Powerbomb, creator-owned series by Daniel Warren Johnson. Look, all you need to know is that these two humans from Earth are in some sort of an intergalactic wrestling match. And in this issue, they go up against God. Yes, God himself, because God is apparently a wrestling fan, and they are trying to find a way to revive her mother, his wife. Okay. Art in this is incredible. The action is just so dynamic. And you'd think, hey, Chris, a book where two people are pro wrestling against God, isn't that a bit much? Yeah, it is. But guess what? There's an emotional core that's still actually very, very real and honest. I mean, the impact, that's not just good anatomy, that's good composition. And Daniel Warren Johnson is drawing some quite complex human interactions. You know, mostly we get like punches and kicks in comics. We don't necessarily get a lot of grappling, especially not something that's chained together panel to panel like this, where they're because they're doing wrestling. So yeah, they're going to be chaining certain moves, and you can read it panel to panel and go, okay, I understand where the characters are in relation to each other. Might not impress everybody when they like read this if they're younger, but it's something special. He's really got some skills. Look at that. This issue had me crying, not gonna lie. I got pretty emotional too. Maybe I will turn on this light just to see if this looks a little better. Is that too much glare? It's like glare for this, but I think when I'm drawing and doing the news, I'll turn this light off. But for showing the comic, I think I will turn it on, actually. Look, I've made no bones about the fact that I am a massive fan of Daniel Warren Johnson. And it goes beyond just his artwork. It goes into his storytelling, both writing and his decisions. All I can say is that this series, Do a Powerbomb, surprised me several times throughout the run. There were some twists to the story that I never saw coming. About at least 3 big ones that I can think of. And here I'm going to list them for you now. I want you to enjoy this too. So all I can say is this gets my highest recommendation, pick of the week. Let's keep moving. Here's a really strong one too, though. Night of the Ghoul. If you have Amazon Prime, by the way, you can read Scott Snyder's comics there for free, just so you know. Pretty nice little bonus. But I get it in print too. I like to read in print. Artwork by Francesco Francavilla wraps up a great horror story. There's a lot of levels to it too, and there's a lot of layers. So it's probably too much to get into for talking about a final issue. But I mean, you can just glance at that art, and it's kind of disturbing, isn't it? Things like even the colors choices and stuff like that. But like the blank eyes and the strong shading. I think even in black and white, this would be very disturbing. But the colors actually, I think, do complement quite well this story. They're mostly flat. They're not necessarily super highly rendered. I think that tends to benefit most comics. Most comics benefit from a somewhat simpler art style. Not to say there's no rendering, just not over the top. But anyway, if you like horror, this has a nice new monster published in print by Dark Horse. And it's on a great horror movie twist. It's great. It's really good. It's really, really strong. Let's see. Not a fan of Snyder, but I do really love Francavilla. You couldn't tell that I'm a fan of Daniel Warren Johnson. I do keep it pretty close to the vest, don't I? Why would it not impress a younger person? Maybe I misspoke there, Moritaka. What I guess I meant to say is sometimes when you're younger, you can just say, this looks good. And you don't necessarily know why something appeals to you, and you don't have to. If something appeals to you, that's enough. What I'm saying is the more you sort of follow comic books and what techniques work and don't, you start to see that people make very good decisions in storytelling and in composition, in lighting. There's all sorts of things you can do that can make a page better. And it's not always like in your face, like that they're like saying, this is why it looks so good. That's all I'm trying to say. Thank you for the super sticker, Riv. I don't get to see that here on the live stream, but I will when I go back and edit in the chapters. If you guys don't know, I always go back and put chapters on these live streams so that people can jump around, because I know these are long shows. Too long to spend with me, that's for damn sure. Now, I always appreciate you guys are here. Let's see. Wally says, did you ever see Stephen King share Francavilla's artwork while misnaming and misgendering him multiple times? No, I don't know anything about that. Sorry. I'm sure it wasn't intentional. Oh, yeah. Afterlife with Archie. Man, great book. Never concluded, unfortunately. Still a really damn good series of issues. Really disturbing. Unfortunately, never finished. Let me move forward because there's a few comics here. Speaking of Scott Snyder, he's got a new issue of Nocterra. It's a special, technically, so it fits in right between issues, I want to say 11 and 12. Some artwork by Tony Daniel, who's a regular artist, some by Francis Monopole. And this gives us a little bit of the origin of one of the main characters, Val, which is, it's a really heartbreaking story about a guy who just tried to make both his life and the world better once this weird apocalypse happened and you know, the lights went out permanently. There's some dark twists and turns here, but overall, even though it's got a horror tinge to it, it's still essentially a sci-fi action comic. And it was nice to see Val take the forefront so much because there is a pretty big supporting cast. It was nice to go back to the main character and get to like really get inside of her head. There was one thing I didn't understand that I asked Scott Snyder about, the writer. Supposedly, this guy, Royce, is helping the world and helping Val when she's here. He's retrofitting diesel trucks to run electrically because, of course, it's the apocalypse. They don't necessarily have access to diesel fuel easily, whereas they can manufacture batteries and get access to batteries. Want to light everything because that keeps away these monsters. Okay, so he's retrofitted his truck to be electric. In this, she's narrating the story. She says, we barreled out of there in the Screaming Eagle, that's the truck, so fast the clutch nearly blew. I hate to be a nitpicker, but if he's retrofitted these trucks to be electric, I don't, and maybe there's a way to do it, but as far as I know, if a car is purely electric, it no longer has a transmission. It has a motor, but it wouldn't have a transmission, so why would you have a clutch? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, or maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there's somebody out there that's a mechanic. I don't know that Scott Snyder necessarily made a mistake, or if that was intentionally he's trying to tell me something. I don't know. To me, that seems like it could be a mistake. I'm not sure. I like this from Andrew. Weird Apocalypse sounds like it would be a pretty good comic or a band. Oh, I totally agree with you, Chem Dog. Yeah, giant size hardcover. Oh, if they could make an artist edition of any Daniel Warren Johnson book, you know, like with the pages scanned in, just black and white as he drew them, I would love to pick something like that up and really study how he draws. That would mean a lot to me. Yeah, maybe it is a little bit of the car salesman in me. I'm not aware of an electric vehicle that has a transmission. So I don't quite get how that would work. There is a company that is making a manual electric vehicle, but I don't know a whole lot about it. And I'm not surprised somebody would try to do that because, yes, it's theoretically still possible and that could be like fun, but it doesn't seem necessary. It literally seems like that would take extra engineering. And the goal in this would be to create like an electric vehicle that's just more reliable. Remove the transmission. That sounds smart. Well, first of all, lovely to have you here, Andy. I hope you know that I always appreciate having you in here quite a bit. It's flattering because I'm a big fan of your work. But he says, sounds like you just got your first Nocterra no prize. Here's the thing, folks. To get a no prize, you can't just point out a mistake. You have to point out why it's actually not a mistake. And I haven't done that. Could I? Maybe. But I don't want to do Scott's work for him. I think he gets paid plenty. He's going to have to answer this one. Let's see, Steve, thank you for the super chat. And he says, for the holidays, any traditions you have, like watch 2001 A Space Odyssey, watch It's a Wonderful Life, and I read a Superman comic. What do you do? Oh, you watch 2001 It's a Wonderful Life and read a Superman comic. Those are fun traditions. I also this past week watched It's a Wonderful Life, one of my favorite movies. It hits me right here for some reason. I love that movie. And I always make Chrissy laugh. Right, Chrissy? Where I go into my impressions of the characters and create new scenes that did not happen, but like with the characters of It's a Wonderful Life. Go like, oh, Mr. Potter, you old crotchety soul. Why, you weren't expecting this, but I'm about to ram this building and alone bar of gold right up your old keister, you old coot. Why, I might have guessed you'd do something like that, George Bailey. You're just the kind of rapscallion that would do something like that to an old man. Well, you stole money from my Uncle Billy, and you deserve this, Mr. Potter, doesn't he, Mary? I think he does. I don't know. I could go on for like 20 minutes like that. Let's see. I used to have a tradition of watching Tokyo Godfathers every season, but I haven't done such in a few years. Well, maybe you should bring it back. Let's see. Oh, somebody might have an explanation here for what I was complaining about. Car. This is all hung up. There we go. Thank you, Dave. Keeping a transmission is a thing. People fit electric motors with an adapter plate to the gearbox. Okay, so it would be technically doable. So there's our no prize if we want to go with that explanation. There's the no prize, right? Oh, you and your electric cars, Potter. Why, that takes away work from everybody here in the heck's the name of the town? East Bumfuck Falls. Sorry, everyone. Sorry. That's what happens when I don't know what I'm going to say. All right. All right. What's your favorite Batman in live action? That's a little tougher than I'd think because I did love The Batman. I also really like the Nolan trilogy a lot. And I grew up with the Adam West, which I think works very, very well in a very, very different way. My overall favorite is probably still Christian Bale, but if they make some more with Robert Pattinson and they're really good, maybe that takes the lead. But for now, I mean, boy, as good as The Dark Knight was, I love what they did with Bane. You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it. Not George Clooney. I would definitely take even Val Kilmer over George Clooney. Not that Clooney is a bad actor. He just didn't really do too much that felt Batman. I don't know. We'll move forward. Radiant Pink, latest book in the Radiant series. It's placed in the same world as Radiant Black, Radiant Red, Rogue Sun, the Massive Verse, right? Radiant Pink, this girl, her powers allow her to teleport, although she can get tired, just like Nightcrawler, basically, and then they don't work so well. I don't know. I don't remember if she's strong and can fly or anything, but she can teleport. And she's decided to use these powers to make her live stream gamer channel take off. Let's see. New York Mets made great signings. Jump on the bandwagon. No, I'm from Boston. I think I'll stick with my Sox. I know a lot of you will hate me for that, but that's okay. I revel in it. More power to you, Steve. Fun idea, though. Fun idea. As somebody that works in the world of live streaming, I'm doing one right now, actually. Secret. The idea of a live streamer being a superhero and using those abilities to increase her stream. But she actually isn't doing it for purely selfish reasons, just to be clear. She does it to like have events where she raises donations for children's hospitals, stuff like that. Artwork by Emma Kubert. And I would love to know, because I definitely don't, but I'm pretty sure Emma Kubert is third generation, as in there's Joe, there's Andy and Adam, and there's Emma, but I'm not sure whose daughter Emma is. But she draws definitely a little different than the elder Kuberts, but has skills. It'll be interesting to see where her career goes, because I'm trying to think, are there any other third generation comic book artists where all three were pretty famous and successful? Certainly Joe, Adam, and Ian, success. Emma's very new, but she's Radiant and Frank Miller book Pandora coming out. So thank you. Emma is Andy's daughter. Thank you. I wasn't sure. I looked a little, but I couldn't find it. So that's interesting to know. Water, just getting dry mouth tonight. Yeah, are there any other third generations? Not sure. I love seeing the massive verse grow, because even though it all takes place in the same shared world, the Dead Lucky is another one that I like. They're not crossing over all the time, and you can just read just that book and enjoy it. And I think that's the way to do things, shared universe, at least initially. Yeah, the Harley Quinn show does have a good Bane. They give him that voice, but he's definitely a bit of a dork. It's just fun to talk like this. Moving over to some Marvel stuff. I picked up Fantastic Four #1 by Ryan North and, is it Eben Coelho? A little late last month, and I liked it. So I went with this one. And something has happened where the Fantastic Four, well known as being a family of adventures, has broken up over something. Something serious happened where they've gone their separate ways. All right, so I'm already a little interested in that. But fortunately, each individual story so far has also been interesting. Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman are still together. Good, they should be. And they find themselves in a town just at a diner when the diners overhear that's Reed Richards and Sue Storm. They reveal themselves to be Doombots and attempt to kill them. But there's a twist here. At a certain point, they all stop and go back to normal. That's pretty weird. It involves a mystery of something that happened with Dr. Doom before he was really Dr. Doom, when he was just Victor Von Doom, a young college student, when he was still Reed's friend. There's a great scientific mystery for these two to figure out, and I like that. And I also liked their relationship with each other. It was believable that they complement one another, like work together well. It makes sense that they're husband and wife. Reed also does some creepy things with his appendages. He makes his hands stretch out here, and he puts his eyeballs on his fingertips to like go into like a hard to see space. I'd never thought of him using his powers like that, but I kind of like that. this FF was fun. It is fun. It's really good so far, anyway. It's nice, sort of lower stakes, but it makes us care about the characters so that it can build up to something over this run. I like that. I don't know about third generation, but Vaughn Bodie and his son Mark Bodie come to mind in terms of second gen. Couldn't he just stretch his eye? He probably could. Maybe that would arguably be grosser if he had eye stalks coming out. I don't know. Yes, Alex Ross cover. There you go. And of course, Alex Ross can only do about like one cover a month, it seems. So, you know, he picks his projects carefully. They want to put him on something prominent. What's this say? They had a printing error with issue 19 where the leads were supposed to be wearing Rogue Sun masks to hide their identities, but the books came out with them looking like Casey Jones masks. A Rogue Sun issue? No, issue 19. So you're talking about Radiant Black, I guess? Anyway. Are you an artist, good sir? Not on the level of any of these people that do regular monthly books, but this is exciting. As soon as I have the previews code, I'll let you guys know. Looks like I'm going to be doing a variant cover for Vampirella Year 1, Issue 6. That's Christopher Priest's run, giving the untold story of Vampirella's origin back on her home planet of Vaughn. And so that'll be out pretty soon, really. We're in the process of getting that ready. So, yeah, got a cover out anyway. Cover, but to everyone, they've got a chance to hopefully pre-order it from your local comic book shop. I think that would be cool. Look at that. Thank you, Gene. That's awesome. It is awesome. Hey, Daniel, great to see you. Are you still in Japan or are you back to Sweden? Let's see. Where were you playing UFO catcher games? I don't know what UFO catcher games are. I don't think I was ever playing any of those. Let's see. Vampirella, I'll check it out. Thank you. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. Let's see. Our boy has hit the big time. I don't know about big time, but it's a fun little project to do. Didn't they try to shoehorn in Lady Rawhide to be Vampirella? I don't know, to be honest. Let's see. 10 rare, nice. That video with the gorilla that you drew? Mm-hmm. A little bit more to it now, but yeah. Let's see. Oh, Crane games. Right. Thank you. Last night I was playing some Crane games with some of my coworkers. Where was I playing those? Okay, got it. UFO catcher. I've never heard that term. Crane games, yes. A local bowling alley near where I work. Never been there before. Turns out they have probably hundreds of Crane games. They're all like the actual machines imported from Japan. I recognize them because I was like, oh, these aren't just the grip ones. They're all games like, you know, they've got a few like that, but they've also got ones where, you know, you have to like lower a rod, and if it goes through a specific hole, that'll drop your prize out. Or there's a prize across like several bars, and you have to like sort of grab it and move it across the bars until it drops off of them. Things like that. So I was playing those last night, and I won a Nezuko figurine for Nezuko from Demon Slayer. One of those Q poskets, if you've ever heard of those. So anyway, that was fun. All right, you're back in Sweden. Well, thank you for the question. I appreciate it. UFO catcher equals claw machines. Sorry, I'd never heard that term before. Sorry for the confusion. You might check out a new comic one day. I recommend them, surprisingly enough. Oh, we're already at 5:30. Okay, I've got 4 more comics to mention. Spider-Man. Spider-Man. I want pictures of Spider-Man. You know, Peter, I'm something of a scientist myself. What can I say about this? It's another Spider-Verse entry. Except the stakes have gone up and there's a bunch of new characters. It's a blast. It's a blast. I mean, Dan Slott has written more Spider-Man than anyone. Mark Bagley has drawn more Spider-Man than anyone. They know what to do. It's fun. This is a fun adventure. I like it. It ends on a big surprise. I don't know how they're going to get to the next chapter of the story, to be honest. It does end in a way that I'm going, okay, I don't know where that's going. And tomorrow, apparently, we are going to get a new trailer for Across the Spider-Verse. That's tomorrow, from what I hear. So looking forward to that. Cheesier thought you were off Spidey. I dropped Amazing Spider-Man. I didn't really care for it. But this is a new Spider-Man title by Dan Slott and Mark Bagley. I'm checking it out for now. The Punisher. Talked this run up for a while now. Jason Aaron writing. Artwork by Jesus Saiz and Paul Azaceta. Paul does the flashback scenes to the Punisher when he was just starting his family. And Jesus Saiz does the modern day stories where the ninja group, the Hand, has offered Frank Castle the chance to be their leader. And he's slowly becoming possessed by the demon that empowers them, the Beast. It really is a dark, dark book. But I think it's an interesting look into Frank's psyche. It's really cool. Look at this. Punisher now is starting to and he sort of knows that this is wrong, but he's getting powers such that he punches a guy in the head and that guy's head just explodes. The Punisher with superpowers, that is never a good idea. This guy's dangerous enough with just guns. And in fact, Ares, the god of war, is really offended that Frank Castle has, sort of turned his back on war and gone over to work for the Hand for assassins. So he attacks the Hand's base, Ares, with his army, right? Yeah, here we've got Ares and this army of tanks and soldiers. And the Punisher is able to blow up a tank with just a gun. He's got these sacred bullets that he's had forged. Yeah, it isn't the Punisher just fighting crime, although that's what he keeps dedicating the Hand's resources towards. But that things are going to go really, really bad for the whole world if somebody doesn't pull Frank away from the Hand. Their influence is very, very, very bad for him. And I love it because the flashbacks especially are just some of the dark stuff we've ever seen with Punisher and how it works. How broken he is. Andrew, thank you for the super chat. First Spider-Verse comic played up Peter as a chosen one figure, while the movie was saying anyone could be a hero. You prefer one or the other. I prefer the movie that anyone can be a hero. But fortunately, this sequel plays on that idea. Everyone's well, Peter's the chosen one. And something happens such that they can no longer count on that. And so that kind of means that, yeah, somebody's going to have to step up or do something different. And I like that. Last month up was Hidden Empire. Charles Soule really gets Star Wars. And I hope that someday he gets a chance to write on, say, one of the TV shows or something, because he really gets Star Wars. Beyond that, the artwork is by what's his name? Cummings. Stephen Cummings. Solid. Better than workmanlike. I don't want to downplay his skill. Sometimes he draws some really good technical stuff, like this sort of hangar full of starships. It's really nice looking, actually. It comes across very good. Easy read. It follows Lady Kira from the Solo movie, trying to upset the Empire. And she's way in over her head when you think about it. Going up against Palpatine and Darth Vader. They're trying all sorts of crazy stuff. And she's very confident. But I do think that things are probably going to end badly for her at a certain point. We'll see how far she can go. I like it. I picked up some back issues. I found a good copy of the Michelangelo Christmas special. This is by what do you call it? Creators, Eastman and Laird. Backup story in this by Jim Lawson, who also did some excellent Ninja Turtles. And I'd never heard or seen this before. This is early Dark Horse Comics presents something called Zone. I have no idea what it is yet. If any of you out there knows what this is, let me know. I just picked it up because it wasn't much, and I was just like, I've never heard of it. I wanted to know. And finally, I won't spend much time on this, but I did pick up the next 2 volumes of Tokyo Revengers. I blasted through these in like a day. It's emotional. It's really good. Look at that. That even though that's manga, I feel like that has a little bit of a Western flair to some of it, like especially how Ken Wakui draws noses. He doesn't sort of just do just a line. He like actually outlines their shape a lot of times, or shows like the shadow underneath them. They're still big eyes, but I think that he does a lot to also draw some very different characters. Let me see if I can show a good example of that. There's a huge gang fight in this with lots of different aged and teenagers. And they actually have, like some of them will have like, the bigger ears, that like sort of the awkward, like, longer necks and stuff, because they're still growing. They'll be at different heights and stuff, but they're all teenagers. I like this a lot. I'm really glad I finally discovered it. Hey, look who we got here. Jim Mahfood. Zone and that Michelangelo one-shot are indie classics. Indie cred. You just heard it from Jim. Jim's so indie, he doesn't even go to like, American comic conventions. No, he goes to comic conventions in Paraguay. I hope that was good, Jim. I'm really curious what something like that is like, because I'm almost ashamed to say Paraguay has never really been on my radar as a vacation destination. And when you went to that convention, I was like, boy, I wonder what that's like. I have a super rough sketch here. I don't have a whole lot of faith that I'm going to be able to turn it into something good looking, but I was enjoying Radiant Pink, so I'm going to try to draw Radiant Pink sort of jumping through one of her portals. We'll see if I can actually nail that or not. I wish I had more confidence, but I really sort of rushed this sketch right before the show because I wasn't sure what I felt like drawing this week. Paraguay is a beautiful country. I agree. I have had Jim on Comic Tropes, actually. It was a great time. I got to know him a lot better. Yeah, Jim was very kind and I recommend going back and looking at that because he really opens up a lot about his work. Let's see. I'm moving to Mexico for a couple months, and I just picked up the first 4 volumes of Tokyo Revengers and Spy Family on your recommendation. Also, Chainsaw Man. Those are all very good comic books. I think you will enjoy them. I really do. Yes. What shall we do on the show now? I know. How about some news of the week? We've got a bunch of news of the week. Oh, but let me acknowledge this. Jim says, Paraguay is great. All the people there were super warm and friendly. It was their first Comic-Con ever, so everyone was very excited and in good spirits. Well, that's really cool that you got to participate in that. That's really nice to hear. All right, we've got some good news this week. Let's get into it. What else would I start with other than talking about how the latest Marvel movie had a VFX artist dedicated entirely to making poop? I'm not kidding. Comicbook.com right now has an interview with Chris White. He's one of the VFX supervisor at Weta. And of course, they're from New Zealand. They've done a lot of huge movies. They work on a lot of the Marvel stuff. And there's a quote from Chris White. I want to read it to you because this is pretty good. He says, if you want to talk about minutia, we were literally discussing the shape of the fish poop that makes up all of the stuff that's floating around and how we need to make sure that shape is correct. And he continues by saying, we had someone whose full-time job, sorry, let me reread that. We had someone who was full-time doing just that marine snow. Marine snow is the polite technical term for all the debris that's in the ocean. Because guess what? Fish go to the bathroom in it. like Marcus says in the Indiana Jones movie, let's see, Last Crusade, water? No, thank you. Fish make love in it. How amazing is that, folks? How amazing is that? Yes, Beowulf has it. Somebody has official Marvel VFX poop guy on their resume. I mean, I get that you had to have the debris and like the reflections and like, you know, like things going around so that, you know, Namor and his kingdom look right. But I love learning that there is somebody whose job was just dedicated to going like, this is what a fish poop should look like. You know, they're coming up with these elaborate models and like, you know, typing away, like programming, stuff like that. The ocean is gross and weird. Yes, and we should not eat anything from it because of that. It's just too gross, too weird. No, thank you. Poop is better than the oil we constantly spill into the ocean. Which would you rather eat? Poop or oil? Not an easy decision, I think. That's going on the old tombstone. There you go. Yeah, forget the resume. We're going up a notch. We're saying like, put that on my tombstone. I made poop for Marvel. For Marvel. That's all I did. Full-time job. Full-time job. Let's see. Let's see. They got VFX artists working on Pooh, but still released Thor: Love and Thunder with that one scene. I don't know which scene. Sorry. As long as it's fish poop and not Namor poop. Well, you gotta think. Where else is he? What, like Namor goes above water, above the ocean, and climbs onto a beach every time he needs to go to the bathroom? That's not realistic. No, I'm sure that Atlanteans just pull their trousers down. They're still modest. And they just go there in the ocean. Why wouldn't you? Yeah, if we get a Namor movie, there's a good chance we might just see Namor just sort of like, you know, like a couple bubbles float behind him, and like something that looks like a Three Musketeers floats in front of his face, and he doesn't even flinch, because to him that's normal. Lord Luke Lightbringer, thanks for the super chat. Have you played the Dragon Age series or read the graphic novel? And have you checked out the new Netflix series, Dragon Age Absolution? No, that's a total blind spot for me. I do not know really anything about Dragon Age. I feel like that there was a web series once starring Felicia Day. Am I remembering that right? But I don't know. They grade oil by tasting it. Boy, doesn't sound nice. Well, I just wanted to pass that on. Trousers. That's right. Namor wears trousers. What? He gets a nice bit of trousers. Let's see. We went from Batman's pea-stained trunks to Namor and Atlanteans taking dumps in the ocean. Hey, this is my show. This is what you're going to get. I don't know what to tell you. Here, let me turn this off. Actually, you don't need that anymore. That was for the comics. I think that this is probably as good a time as any to move on to the next piece of news. I think we got what we were going to get out of that. Are Greg Capullo and Donny Cates teaming up on something? I mean, that would be big news if so. They're pretty big names. We've got this tweet here. Two tweets, technically. We've got this one down here of Greg Capullo saying, I'm about to Marvel up. Cool with that? And Donny Cates quote tweeted that with an animated GIF of Maverick putting on his sunglasses and, you know, given that Tom Cruise smile. Was this before or after he fixed his teeth? I guess it's somewhere in between, to be honest. If you don't know, go back to something like The Outsiders and look at Tom Cruise's teeth. They're like looking at something from Namor's kingdom. They look like they're going to, you know, just tear you to shreds. And at some point, he got them, like perfect. For the record, are they working together? Who knows? These guys are just hinting at something. But at New York Comic Con, was that the interview with Sal from Comic Pop? It actually might have been. But yeah, Capullo told Comic Book Resources at the New York Comic Con that he wanted to work at Marvel. And he said also that Donny Cates is always after him to work on something. So, yeah, that just might be. It just might be. Let's see, saw theories that Donny Cates could be taking over Avengers after Jason Aaron leaves. That could make sense. I could see Marvel doing that. Yeah, maybe. They're going to do a Top Gun comic book. That's the most likely thing. I think that that's a good guess. Yes. I don't think that Xenu had much to do with the teeth. I think that was all Earth-based medicine. Damn that Earth-based medicine. Ow! Oh, I fell down the basement stairs. No, I dropped my webcam. Or I didn't drop it. It fell. So bear with me as I make an adjustment here. And we'll see if I can get things back to normal. Is it going to work like that? That's too high. Bear with me. I'm going to try to set something up here. I'm going to do this. I'm trying to put some heavy objects around this webcam to aim it at me properly. Will that work? How does that look? That looks okay, right? Yeah. Thank you. Yes, somebody help that poor man. I assume you're talking about me, not Tom Cruise, because Tom Cruise, as far as I know, is actually not poor. I think he's quite successful. I've fallen and I can't get up. I'm just doing nothing but annoying voices for you folks tonight. Thank you very much for putting up with my, what would I call them? Subpar impressions? Something like that? How fast can you say thank you for the super chat? That's about as fast as I can go. Thank you for the super chat. We have a Piper down. I was legit concerned. Don't worry, I'm like a cartoon character. I fall downstairs and stuff. I just bounce right back. I'm fine. I'm reading a Fantastic Four comic right now. Good, good. I was looking away when the camera fell, so I really thought that you fell. That's just... Sorry. Obviously, I'm an incredible actor. Obviously. I think we all know that now. You folks know that. Does Marvel know that? No. As soon as they find out, you can bet they're going to add me as Paste Pot Pete in a post-credit stinger to that Fantastic Four movie. I guarantee you I will be in the Fantastic Four movie somewhere as Paste Pot Pete. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. I promise. I don't promise that. What is the best X-Men comic to start with? I would say God Loves, Man Kills. It's a graphic novel. I think that would probably be that's just a single story. It encapsulates a lot of what makes X-Men work and what makes X-Men unique. Paste fail. Yep. What's my favorite exploitation film? Probably something like was 70s Kung Fu, like, a Bruce Lee chop socky film. If we're talking pure exploitation. I like horror. I like, some of those urban action movies and stuff. But realistically, yeah, I'd probably say my favorite would be something like Enter the Dragon. I'd call that exploitation and pretty darn good for what it is. The mini clones of Bruce Lee? No, I don't know about that. In issue 130 of Pros and Cons, the camera dies. Pick up your 15 variant covers today. One of them by me. Let's see. That was karma for speaking ill of Tom Cruise. Oh, You're probably right. He knows. Yeah, he knows. No matter how much I make fun of him, he knows. Who sings that? Phil Collins? Somebody hip like that. I'm up to date with the beats. The Last Dragon, that's fun. Yep, Tubi has a lot of interesting movies. Let's see. I heard if you make fun of Tom Cruise, he jumps on your couch. Yep. Did you like Black Panther movies? Yeah, I did. I think I probably liked the first one a little bit more, but Wakanda Forever was definitely a good movie. Namor added a lot to it. Namor was great. Really liked that. I don't even know which Phil Collins song I was just singing, but I'm pretty sure that was Phil Collins. No jacket required. That's how cool he is. He goes to places where you're not required to wear a dinner jacket. That's pretty cool. Tell you what, I'm going to give you some more news. Let's see if it's this fun. Oh no, Marvel might delay some of their movies. Oh no, we might only get 3 a year instead of 4 movies and like 6 TV shows. I don't know. That's the rumor right now. There's a guy called Alex P on Twitter. He writes for Cosmic Circus. I don't know exactly how reliable you'd call that. I think they've gotten a few things right, though. And this one doesn't sound too over the top. But he tweeted that what he heard from his insider sources is that Marvel is going to slow their output in 2023 and 2024. That's specifically a reaction to the criticism of Phase 4. That some people don't feel the quality was very consistent or really like where it was for Phase 3. I think that that's probably a fair criticism, to be honest. I think, I didn't think it was garbage, but yeah, I don't think it was quite as good as it had been. And so Marvel's to slow down. I think it was a sample of that, which lends to the credibility, where they delayed Blade instead of just rushing it into production because allegedly that had some issues to like iron out. So yeah, supposedly the goal is to refocus on overall quality. They've got a lot to lose. They can't rest on their laurels because every other movie studio out there wants what Marvel has built, like a franchise where you can make different movies, but they all are sort of connected. They're all going to like bring in an audience. That's humongous what they've built, and they should slow it down, because remember, like, they've been doing a lot of Disney Plus stuff, and I like that. But one thing I heard was that they might turn some of the ideas for full TV seasons into more like a special, like they did with Werewolf by Night, for instance. Probably not a bad idea. Yeah. Marvel actually hasn't responded directly to this. So who knows? This could just be a rumor. I just want to put that in the atmosphere there. Which upcoming movie are you looking forward to most? Are you specifically talking about Marvel stuff? If so, I would say realistically, probably the Captain America 4. That one. Well, or to be honest, I almost forgot, but Ant-Man 3 looks pretty damn exciting. So I like Paul Rudd a lot, and I'm looking forward to Quantumania. Yeah, well, Armor Wars, they specifically looked at and they said, you know what, to do this right, we need more of a budget than what we can do with TV. We need to make it a movie. And I'm glad that they made that decision. I think that War Machine and the Armor Wars story specifically is really what deserves a full movie, because Armor Wars is a really good storyline. It's not going to be quite as strong without Tony at the heart of it. But then again, I don't think that Marvel really had any interest in exploring Tony's alcoholism beyond what they did in Iron Man 2. So if you're not going to deal with that, then like the plot itself could slot in other characters like War Machine. You could even do it with Ironheart or somebody else. Yeah. Let's see. Werewolf by Night was one of my fave properties in Phase 4. It was really, really strong. And I think it was like a good idea to just do it as a special and leave us wanting more. I really liked a lot of elements of that. The music, the presentation, it was really, really good. The 4 movies a year format definitely hurt the quality of the movies and shows during Phase 4. I mean, I think it's just, something like Eternals was, I don't think it was as bad as some people seem to think, but at the same time, that was on the lower end of the spectrum. And whereas, it had been a while since we'd gotten something closer to like a Thor the Dark World. So we'll see. Man-Thing is one of your favorites. He's got a lot of potential. Had such a blast with Shang-Chi at the theater. Definitely enjoyed that one the most. I personally liked Shang-Chi a lot too. I thought it was good. I'd like a little bit more martial arts action in a sequel. I really like, something more like what I'd see in a 90s Jet Li or Jackie Chan movie, ideally. Or just get some of the, guys that are, I don't know who's doing great martial arts right now, because I was like just thinking about that, and actually we don't get Gareth Edwards. He was the one that did the Raid and the Raid 2, right? I wish he would do something like Shang-Chi. Damn, he knows how to make martial arts look good, even though he's not a martial artist. He's studied good martial arts movies. Boy, would somebody like that be awesome to have at the helm of a movie like that. I enjoyed the Eternals. I thought it was a sweeping epic as well. I thought that they set things up to potentially make even a more interesting sequel than that first movie, to be honest. So I would definitely still go see another Eternals movie. I would be interested in that. I did not hate anything in Phase 4. And I thought a couple things were pretty strong. I liked the Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and I liked Spider-Man No Way Home. I thought that both of those were really, really good. And I liked a lot of the Disney Plus shows quite a bit. I liked the Disney Plus shows. Some of the movies were like, on the higher end of average, but I don't know that any of them were necessarily exceptional. Yeah. Nobody was really strong. I agree. What did you ever do with your clone from the Clone Saga video? I don't know. I guess I fertilized him or something like that. Oops. Thank you, Andrew. Right. I did mean Gareth Evans. Gareth Evans is who I'm talking about. He does incredible action no matter what he's doing. He did a short horror movie in one of the VHS movies. Those are like anthology horror movies, and that thing is balls to the wall action. It's really cool. The Raid and the Raid 2 were great. And he did another one before the Raid that was really strong. He even did one on Netflix that wasn't really an action movie or anything, but anytime there was action, it was really exciting. Gareth Edwards is fine, but I was thinking of Gareth Evans, and I'm just terrible at names. Just terrible at them. The higher end of average sounds like my report card. Sounds like my report card. I remember the director, Destin, said he'd love to have Jackie Chan be a part of Shang-Chi too. I don't think Destin did a bad job at all. And I think one of the cool things that he did was hiring one of the guys from Marshall Club to play Death Dealer. I thought that was pretty awesome. Also pretty awesome to have Michelle Yeoh in there. And now that I think of it, Yuen Wah was in there too as Guangbao, the archer, the older archer. But Yunhua, I mean, that's martial arts royalty these days. Not everybody knows him, but he's one of Jackie's brothers. So yeah, I thought that I would have liked a little bit more just sort of like martial arts with sort of props as compared to like big epic action scenes. But I did think Shang-Chi was pretty darn strong. This is fair. Jamilin says, I think Black Widow gets a bad rap. It was poorly timed, but not a bad story. It should have come out in place of Captain Marvel. I enjoyed Black Widow. I think that literally the only thing I'd complain about was the special effect at the end when Yelena blows up like a generator or something like that on Dreykov's flying ship. Yeah, that was a bad example of a special effect. They did not execute that scene very well. And they break down why on that YouTube show Corridor Crew. If you ever want to see why that doesn't specifically work, they outline it. Basically, they took a big explosion and they shrunk it down so it doesn't like have the right weight. And they didn't, because they didn't want to like sort of like blow out the light, I think, on showing the actress and everything, but it just doesn't work that as is. It was like one bad special effect, and unfortunately, because it was like towards the tail end, at like the big sort of denouement of everything, the climax, I should really say, it was kind of memorable. Yeah, the miniature giant explosion. It doesn't work like a giant explosion should. And it's kind of memorable for that. But aside from that, I didn't think that was a bad story at all. And it made me want to see more of Yelena. I thought that Yelena was really funny and interesting, and I loved it when she showed up on Hawkeye because I wanted to see more of her. I'm going to give you guys another piece of news. And this is Warner Brothers is not happy with Netflix. They're mad at them. This comes from Deadline, Hollywood insider source, newspaper. They said her sources, the new Warner Brothers and Discovery president David Zaslav is very unhappy with the Netflix payment terms and that he's railing against them. That was the quote that they said, railing against what they have to do for payment terms. Now, Netflix hasn't changed its payment terms or anything, and a lot of people in the industry do things this way, but what they do is they pay the production company that makes the show when they've decided to do it. They pay them in installments over an 18 to 24 month period. So it might take about 2 years to get your money for it. Apparently David Zaslav just learned about this and he was just like, what? No, I don't like that. And people are like, sorry, that's just sort of the way it is. And this all came up when they were in the process of renegotiating for a season 2 of Sandman, produced by Warner Brothers TV, owned by Warner Brothers, but Netflix was going to get. And yeah, in response to all of this, David Zaslav is like, well, tell you what, I want you to slow the production on the things, the shows that we're giving them, so that he's trying to strong arm them a little, like, hey, you need us more than we need you, that kind of a thing. Okay. I don't know that it's necessary to sort of get into a fight with Netflix. They're a pretty powerful organization in their own right, whether you like them or not, you'd think you'd want to have good terms. Literally last week, we had a news item where David Zaslav was saying, we don't have to do everything in-house. I want to have more partnerships with outside groups. And specifically, they were talking about having Amazon Prime develop a bunch of animated shows based on their superheroes. And now all of a sudden he's really mad about the pay terms. Did them renew Sandman? if you remember, Sandman took a while to get that announcement of a second season being renewed. This was why. They were like sort of arguing about the payment terms and everything. But it did get picked up, and for what it's worth, Neil Gaiman himself did, post on Twitter that, hey, no matter what people are saying, it did get picked up. Just, it's been commissioned. There is going to be a season 2. Yeah. Syracuse men's soccer are national champs. Well, there you go, guys. There's the local Syracuse news from Steve. Thank you very much, though, for the super chat. I appreciate that, man. I don't know that it's necessary to do blank. It's pretty much Zaslav in a nutshell. Tommy has, a theory here that does seem to make a little bit of sense. He is just trying to lower the stock price so he can merge with Comcast. Maybe. They made a show based on Metallica song Enter Sandman. Hey, did anybody else notice that Enter Sandman was used on Willow this past week? I don't know if anybody else is watching Willow on Disney Plus. I grew up seeing that movie in the theaters, so I've got a fondness for Warwick Davis, and I'm watching Willow. I'm pretty much enjoying it. I definitely didn't expect a cover of Enter Sandman to close out the episode, but I thought it was pretty cool. It was unexpected, though. I did not see that coming. Willow is kind of weird. Willow is weird. My dad loved the Willow. I didn't know there was a Willow Nintendo game. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. There was an everything Nintendo game, and it was all pretty much just jumping and throwing stones at birds. But yeah, that's every adaptation. Syracuse NCAA champions. I am just crappy, ESPN. Well, hey, if I get $2 out of it, I don't think you're crappy at all. I'll tell you what is crappy. Designing the poop in Namor movies. That's a crappy job, but you're doing a pretty good job there, Steve. Anyway, we are getting more Sandman, but will we get other things? I mean, that's not the only Warner Brothers property at Netflix. Sweet Tooth is another one. Sweet Tooth by Jeff Lemire. That's an adaptation I can think of. I can't off the top of my head think of others. Oh, well, wait a minute. Yeah, actually, Netflix also shows a bunch of those WB shows. The Flash and Supernatural. That stuff's all made by WB TV. So yeah, there's actually other comic book stuff like Flash and Green Arrow and stuff like that. That's not the Spider-Man villain. You don't know. Actually, the Willow game is by Capcom. Okay. That's enough Sandman news one day. If I gave you any more, you might go to sleep. So instead, I'm going to move forward and say, the last one was Warner Brothers not happy with Netflix. Now it's DC Studios not happy with The Rock. Sounds like a fun place to work these days, right? Over at Warner Brothers. Well, yeah, there was an article in the Hollywood Reporter. They did multiple sources saying that DC Studios was actually not at all happy with how The Rock hyped up Henry Cavill returning as Superman in Black Adam. They both how he got it to happen and how he sort of wouldn't really shut up about it in any interviews. So it really wasn't a surprise for anyone because he just kept talking about it. That news was everywhere. Sort of takes away the specialness. And essentially they don't want him to be doing that because The Rock is not in charge of the direction that DC Studios plans to go with in their movies. And it's like, just because he got that cool cameo does not necessarily mean that DC is going in a direction like continuing, say, the Snyderverse, right? As fans call it. As backstory, Toby Emmerich, he's the Warner Brothers Pictures chairman, and he did not want Henry Cavill to be in further DC movies, specifically because he wasn't happy with the terms they'd negotiated for how they were paying him. He thought that they were paying him too much for what they got out of it. That's a fair concern when you're on the business end of things. I don't know if he's right or not. I'm just saying it's a fair concern for somebody in that position to have. And what did The Rock do? The Rock wanted it his way. He went over their heads to the co-CEOs of Warner Brothers Pictures, Michael DeLuca and Pam Abdy, and he basically talked them into like how this was a good idea. But, you know, like while they're on top, they normally don't make that level of decisions. That's how The Rock got that done. And hey, you know what? As a fan, thank you, Rock. It was a cool moment. Appreciate it. But as far as you keeping your career secure there and stuff, maybe not the best move long term. Because we got a lot of news this week about Black Adam and about DC superhero movies. First of all, while Black Adam started fairly strong, I made a video where I made a comparison between the differences, and I called it a successful movie. That is dated badly because I would not call the Black Adam a super big success. It probably is going to lose money, honestly. You know, you have to do some really weird financial accounting to find a profit in it. It's only got something like 400 million worldwide. For a superhero movie and a superhero movie with The Rock, that's really not that strong. It's really not that strong. And, you know, DC just hired Peter Safran and James Gunn to take over DC Studios and think of like a path forward where, you know, they're going to have some cohesiveness to their superhero movies. So they don't know if they're going to stay with the people that they've already cast. There are reports that DC is thinking of recasting pretty much everybody that was in Justice League. They just canceled Wonder Woman 3. That's not going to happen. Supposedly, the main reason was they didn't really like director, is it Patty Jenkins? Yeah, they didn't really like Patty Jenkins' script, and she refused to compromise. I think that like she used her clout to get Wonder Woman 2 the way she wanted it, and that didn't really pay off. I think that you could definitely look at that movie and say there were some structural problems with Wonder Woman 2, some very strange creative decisions. Gal Gadot is awesome. She's a good cast member. Chris Pine is really cool in those. But bringing him back, and there's a rumor that they were thinking of bringing Chris Pine back again for Wonder Woman 3. In number 2, they brought him back with like a magic wishing rock. And in number 3, the rumor is that they were going to bring him back with the Lazarus Pit. That's a lot of bringing a dead guy back. I don't know that really works very well. But yeah, so like Wonder Woman 3 is like dead. Henry Cavill, they're thinking is too expensive for like what he brings. I don't know about that one, but that's what they're saying. The Flash, obviously Ezra Miller, super problematic. They're probably just going to like push forward and make this movie happen, but then there's just about no way they want to make another one with him. Ben Affleck has already said that, you know, like after his little role in whatever getting done now, Aquaman and The Flash, that he's pretty much done with it. So it's probably a good time to just reboot everything. It's probably just a good time. There you go. They should cast Chris Ware. It was a very weird movie. Great cast. Even I would say looked good for the most part. Maybe not the fight with Cheetah at the end. Too dark, to be honest. Like physically lit too dark for what it is. You're fighting a giant like yellow Catwoman. It's all dark. But yeah, just some weird decisions in that one. When are they going to make a Jimmy Corrigan movie with Mr. Mexican? I think that they'll probably make a Jimmy Corrigan movie if you're talking about Jimmy Corrigan, the Spectre. Let's see. I think DC movies should embrace the golden age aesthetic that's so prevalent in Darwin Cook's New Frontier. That'd be a very cool, unique universe. Maybe. Um, I think you got to definitely have a bit of humor to the movies, and you got to have it grounded enough that people sort of believe in the world and the stakes, but maybe they should be overall a little more optimistic than some of the Marvel movies. Maybe you got to do something a little different anyway. You got to do something a little different. Um, there have, I think, been some really good DC movies. I liked James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, but the fact was that that didn't do that well. But I thought it was really good. I watched it twice, like really in rapid succession. I liked it a lot. Let's see. What was this? Sorry. A lot of people were tweeting memes of Patty Jenkins wanting Chris Pine in like every movie. Nothing wrong with liking working with an actor. It's just, you killed him off in the first movie. For that to really have any weight, boy, you're already pushing it a little bit by bringing somebody back once. To do it twice, it becomes sort of a joke. The Batman should be based off of that Mobius parody that he did for Penthouse. By the way, if you haven't seen it, I did an episode of Comic Tropes this past week based on the very tragic history, actually, of Penthouse Comics, a company that made comics along with tons of other publishers in the 90s and had a lot of money to throw around. But it's a very sad story. And because of the tragic nature of it, it is both like not monetized for ads and age restricted to people that are 18 or older. And I knew that that would happen when I was making the episode. I knew that that was something like YouTube wouldn't like, but I still thought it was a story worth telling. So I made it. But I still want to pass it around because it's not going to get shared by the algorithm easily. So if you're not subscribed and if you don't have that notification, you probably have no idea that I made that episode because YouTube doesn't have a whole lot of incentive to share that episode. It's not going to get them a lot of ad revenue. I think it's still a video worth watching. Obviously, I really couldn't find a good sponsorship that would fit either. So not really watched by many people, but maybe you'll consider checking it out. I think it was a good episode. Definitely very well worth the watch. Chris was eye-opening. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you. Did you read the comics made by Horacio Altuna? No, I don't think I read any by Horacio Altuna. I don't think so, no. My art professor gave me a copy of the Spanish version of comics. It had great art and nice stories. Sure, not surprised. It really did have some great art in it. The episode was great. Thank you. Thank you. That's really nice of you. I found it fascinating. Well, I'm glad that you watched it. Do you have any published comics available for sale? A few, yeah. If you went to Amazon, you could find some of the things that I've done. I've done stories in some anthologies that are still in print, but they're more educational comics, just to be clear. If you looked up Trickster, which are tales written by actual Native Americans, I wrote a story. I drew a story in that, and I'm in both volumes 1 and 2 of Colonial Comics. Other than that, if you found actual back issues of some of Robert Kirkman's books, I'll have pinups in the back of them, but I don't think that really counts. And I couldn't tell you off the top of my head which ones any of that is in. It was fun at the time to have it in there, but I can't really remember which ones I did. A few things, though. A few little things. But like I say, Vampirella Year 1, Issue 6. Right now, that the plan is that I'll do a variant cover for that. That's okay to have a little behind, Kyle. We can't all have big badonkadonks. I read Penthouse for the comics. Good. Buying those. Trickster and what else? Colonial Comics, Volumes 1 and 2. Just 2 pages in Volume 2, just to be clear. And a short story in Volume 1. Right? Yeah. Yeah, I've seen some Little Annie Fanny because I've done research on like Will Elder and will. I'm so bad at names, guys. I'm forgetting the sorry. I have come across them before. Great episode. Watch it. Hit like. Thanks. Yep. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. We'll go on to another piece of news. I already talked about all this. I didn't realize that I had it. I forgot about all this. Yep. The Hollywood Reporter has an article actually talking about Warner Brothers and DC considering recasting all these characters. I just went over all that and talked about that. I forgot that I had another slide. All right. Mark Millar might return to DC. And then we've got like a little image here of Superman Red Sun. I think that was one of the better things he wrote for DC. Kurtzman, thank you. Thank you. Yep, Will Kurtzman. Yes, Kurtzman is who I was thinking of. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. Mark Millar's been working on his own projects at Millar World for the last couple of years, both writing comics and having them adapted for Netflix. This past Wednesday, though, he tweeted, might take a year or two to get ahead on my schedule, but I'm 100% going to do another Superman story at some point. I've had a notebook I've been noodling in for quite a while now. I'd be curious to see what he comes up with. Like I say, Red Sun was a pretty interesting Elseworlds type story. Great artwork by Dave Johnson, by the way. He doesn't do enough monthly comics for my taste. I love Dave Johnson. Love him. So that was a really cool book. Millar also said that he and Jorge Jimenez are going to be doing a sequel to Nemesis. That'll come out in January. A little less excited about that one personally. I thought Nemesis was like too dark for no real good reason. I don't know. It was weird. It was, if you haven't read Nemesis, it's basically like really rich people are allowed to pay to sort of be an evil version of Batman. And there's some higher power that can like just rig everything in Nemesis's favor to the point where I can't even possibly think of a way to describe it that's YouTube friendly. There's a police commissioner in it. I'm pretty sure it was a police commissioner. And Nemesis just does this unspeakably evil thing that honestly also makes zero sense to the commissioner's daughter. It's insane. It's not my favorite thing about Millar. Yeah, I'm sort of there for you. Like, saying I'm not a fan of Millar at all, but I really loved Red Sun. I think he's a little too nihilistic usually, but I do like some of his stuff a little bit. Like Red Sun, I did like. I think he's a guy that's really lucked out where he's had a bunch of his work adapted into movies, and the movies have pretty much all been better adaptations than his comics. I would say that like that's true for Wanted, Kingsman, Logan, Kick-Ass. I think that they're all honestly kind of improvements over the source material. Maybe I'm crazy for that. Maybe not that Jupiter show on Netflix. That wasn't. It just seemed a little cheap, that one. The budget on it. I don't know about this one. Starlight doesn't get mentioned enough. I don't know Starlight. Yeah, it was big in the 2000s. I completely agree with you, Hamza. Let's see. Slow the internet for zero reason at the randomest time. Okay, I don't... Is that me lagging? I don't know what that is. The Boys. No, isn't The Boys Garth Ennis? I'm pretty sure that The Boys is Garth Ennis, right? And Derek Robertson? Yeah, thank you, Makoto. I was making sure that I'm remembering right. I can understand that, though. There are... I think when you look at it, like, that they do have different writing styles, but they both have very dark tendencies in the stories that they write. So I can understand that overlap. You know what I liked by Mark Millar? It doesn't necessarily hold up as well as I liked it back then, but I did like both the Authority and the Ultimates. Boy, you're right. Like, thinking back, there was a lot of nihilistic stuff in the 2000s. All these things plus the boys. That's some pretty dark comics. I guess that was, that is interesting how many sort of dark stories we had. I think that, like, the world was really, really heavily influenced by the war on terror that we had back then. Yeah. Goran Parlov, good artist. Don't know a lot about him. Did you know that Grant Morrison and Mark Millar had a falling out over Red Son Superman? Grant Morrison apparently wrote half of it, and you can see Grant's fingerprints in Red Son. No, I gotta look into that, Steve. That is news to me. I did not know that. No kidding. Huh. I'll have to reread it now that you said that, and because if I know what to look for, sometimes I can identify stuff like that. That is really interesting. Yeah, Mark Millar did some work on the Authority. I did prefer, I would say, the Warren Ellis stuff, but Mark Millar wasn't too bad. Starlight was pretty great, not so dark. Okay, a couple people telling me that Starlight is worth watching. Yeah, it had a John Carter vibe to it. Okay. Hey, wow, a lot of people saying that. That's really interesting. Hey. Let's see. Morrison came up with the ending, but I'm not sure if he wrote half of it. I'll have to read it. I'd love to hear an argument between Millar and Morrison. I wouldn't understand 90% of it, but it would be entertaining. Yes. Moving on. I have this one in the thumbnail. This is big, or it was a big conversation, I should say, that took place primarily on Twitter. Publishers not paying creators, or maybe more specifically, at least not paying them on time. Artist Will Robson started this whole thread. He posted a huge series of posts on Twitter about it. I'm only going to quote a piece of this, but I recommend looking it up. Look up Will Robson on Twitter. It's a very interesting, honest, and brave, in my opinion, story to tell, because, you know, as artists, these guys put themselves out there and risk, you know, publishers going, well, I don't want to work with that guy. He sounds like he's too much trouble. But if you're not getting paid, I think that that's stuff that you got to share and get out into the world. And fortunately, a lot of people replied backing him up. So Will tweeted, has it become industry standard to pay creators ridiculously late for their work? I've struggled all year with all the large companies I work for to get paid on the agreed time. I'm talking months late. It's sad how nervous I am to even talk about this publicly in fear of being blacklisted for future work. But I've heard so many horror stories from other freelance creators recently about fighting for their paycheck, and I need to vent this all out and hopefully raise some awareness to make serious change. And he went on to say some more, but that's the big sort of gist of it. And this is just some of the replies. There were a lot of replies by professional creators, writers, artists. In this case, Nathan, I believe, is a letterer. So look at Joe Quinones. He's a pretty huge artist. Waited recently over a full year on one publisher before getting paid, and currently still awaiting payment, running on 6 months now from a second prominent publisher who has largely ghosted me relating to 2 separate covers I crafted for them last summer. There was some speculation that could have been Valiant, because there have been a bunch of creators posting that Valiant has been slow to pay them. But that's not confirmed, just to be clear. Tara Phillips, she's done some covers and stuff. I've been waiting months for a publishing company to pay me for 2 cover licenses, one payment going back as early as August. And Nathan Kemp here saying, a specific publisher that I may not name owes me $1,500. Some of it is more than 60 days late. This time next week, they'll be late on close to $4,000. I've had to take up way more work than I can handle to try to make up financially. It's a real struggle right now. That's rough. Pay your employees, guys. Exactly. Working in comics, most of these people, almost all, are going to be freelance. So, you get hired. You might get a little bit of an upfront depending on the publisher, but you're not getting paid the full amount until you tender the work. The work has to go through all sorts of people, letters, colorists, editors, get sent to the printer, get sent to the distributor, get sold in the stores. The stores, are paying the each one back, and there's a delay there. There's a delay. But there shouldn't be a delay beyond the terms that people are agreeing to, because they're counting on that money. They fulfilled their work, and they're not getting paid on time. No, I didn't see any creators in the response specifically name out which publishers are sort of screwing them here, but so many people that it's probably a bunch of them. And it was a separate thing that I'm talking about, where I heard people complaining that Valiant wasn't paying them on time. That was separate. It's tough. How do I feel about AI art? I think it's garbage. I think it's sincerely terrible. I think that it's going to be so bad for so many different reasons. Look, the technology is out there, so it ain't going away. We've got to find a way to adapt, unfortunately. But, when there were apps that could look at a full population using that because it was cheap or free. But the translations are generally pretty garbage. You can count on it being a word or two, but when I go like traveling, I've used some of those things so that I can get a word, but I don't count on the translation itself being accurate. Like it doesn't work well. But because it's so cheap, that's what everybody uses, at least people with like small budgets. And people with small budgets will now turn to AI art. Well, I think that there's a lot of concerns over the legality of copyrights, because these programs are taking people's style and adapting it, and I don't think that that's legal, but it's doing it. I don't know if people that are using these tools and then publishing that art actually have the right to use it, because technically I think that the app or the program has the rights to what they've created. So it's really confusing, honestly. I think that the technology is far outpacing how fast people can follow what's legal and what's not. And I also see the results, and at first it starts to look good, and then you start looking at the details, and it's uniformly got problems. Perspective is often off. It can add extra things that you're not noticing, like an extra fingernail, an extra leg, instead of being clearly defined pencils, it could be a bunch of like weird shapes, it does weird things because it's not a person. Now, if you're using it as a tool to start some creative discussions, and then you're going to base some actual art, whether that's made digitally or by hand, but by a person, I could see the advantage there, and I wouldn't really be against that as like a brainstorming tool. But actually using it and then publishing it, I think is garbage. And I think claiming that it's like yours when all it might take you a long time to come up with just the right prompts to get what you like. But I don't think you're really creating anything, and I think you're fooling yourself if you think that you're creating something there. You're not really creating something. You're telling a program to do something. I don't think that's very impressive. I basically think it's a form of plagiarism, and I'm not a fan of it at all. I don't think that I'm alone saying that, but I definitely think that what I'm saying right now will probably piss at least a few people watching this off. Look, I get it if you're trying to make your own story and you don't have necessarily the budget to hire your dream artist, and this is a way that you can sort of get closer. But I don't think it's a good product. I don't think it's a good product. I think that there's always problems with it. And so you asked me, and I'm always going to be honest with you guys. If I talk to you about something, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. I have yet to really see anything that blows me away. Interesting question. Let's see. I had to mute the AI art channel in the Discord I moderate because it's all garbage. It's a little depressing to realize that not everybody has the same standards for quality control. I'm fine with people having very different tastes, but literally, like, some AI art can make some really interesting color gradients and like, some of the anatomy could look cool, or some of the architecture could look cool, but there's almost always going to be some really weird mistakes in it too, and I consider that quality control, and I don't love it. Trying to get us on something positive. How are the kitties? My cats are awesome. They're getting bigger. They're hilarious. They're so wild. I call it the zoomies. They get so wild. They run around like nutballs. I love them. EJ, lovely to have you here. Thanks for chiming in. Stop calling it art. Please stop calling AI. Please start calling it AI images, or better yet, AI thievery. It is. I mean, it's taking people's personal styles and stealing it, and that is so depressing to me. Now, if you're going to argue that you could, like, put in some controls and it's only going to pull from stuff that's absolutely in the public domain and has no trademarks or something, okay. If you're going to have people that create work that they submit for pay, hopefully, to AI, companies, okay, that's a thing. But they scour the internet, and you could, like, write, I could have like a chatbot thing write me paragraph after paragraph in the style of Mark Millar and tell, something along the lines of Midjourney or some of those AI programs to draw some stuff in the style of Dave Johnson, and I can put out something like Red Sun, and I just call it, like a Blue Moon. And I don't know. I don't love it. I don't love it. A late double salute. Boom, boom, right back at you. So we went down a hole here with AI art. I was not expecting that, but it annoys me. Of course, it's also painful to just know that as this stuff gets used, it's going to mean that people are going to devalue real art, because they're like, well, on the low end, they're always going to say, okay, instead of giving you $5 to draw a whole page, I'm going to make it for free. And so, it just devalues every artist. Talk about that AI writing app we realized had a bias in the programming. Right. That's so funny. The other day, I came across one of those AI writing programs, and I thought I was just using it to amuse myself, to experiment with it, to see what it could do. And it was creating some pretty ridiculous stories at my prompts. I went back the next day and it wouldn't let me do anything. Like, it wouldn't let me tell an AI story about anybody real, because it would just tell me, like, it was like this, like, old school marm, like, chastising me, going like, you shouldn't make fun of real people. And it would tell me Superman is a hero and wouldn't do bad things. You can't tell me to tell a story about that. And I'm going, geez, no problem. I'm done using you. I was just trying to make myself laugh with silly things. I wasn't trying, but whatever. So, there are controls in place by whoever owns this stuff. There's a hilarious episode of WWE Raw that is written and drawn by AI that is absolute hilarity. That sounds funny. I'd be curious to see it. I like laughing at how bad AI can get things. On this channel, I didn't use AI, but I made an episode talking about, was it Spider-Man or Batman? I think I talked about Batman. I said it was as though it was written by an AI. It was actually written by me, but I was trying to like write in the style of AI where it gets things sort of right and then quite wrong and has no idea that it got it wrong. So if you look that up, I've got something like that says like, Batman explained by an AI robot, something like that. But that's actually all written by me. The way you know a real human story is if it contains a good joke. Remember this when it becomes important. That's true. I tried to tell the AI thing to see if it could make jokes. It couldn't make jokes. I said, tell me a joke about the Marvel universe in the style of Jerry Seinfeld. I wanted to see like how much it was sort of stealing from like what was out there. And it said, why are Marvel movie titles always so long? Because they have to have the word Avengers in them. I was like, that's sort of funny for completely the wrong reasons. That is so stupid. I'm almost laughing at how dumb that is. I then said, tell me a Marvel Comics joke in the style of, who did I tell it to do? Norm Macdonald. And it says, why isn't Iron Man happy? Because he's covered in rust. Something simple like that. I was like, what? That's not really a joke. It's just saying something weird. How to be an AI, say random things like eat an airplane. Yeah. Let's say as a concept, it's unparalleled. As an idea generator or co-brainstormer, it's unparalleled in bouncing ideas off of. I wouldn't say unparalleled. I think that you can get better ideas talking with an actual other person, but that's not always easy. Here's one that could affect us. A paper shortage next year, potentially. Well, obviously, we read comics and manga and bande dessinée that's all printed on paper. There was something that relates to paper that I thought was worth sharing here. It was a seminar presented by Publishers Weekly and Westchester Publishing Services. The speaker was a guy named Jim Featherston. He's the president and CEO of a printer. I think they're called Warzilla. I don't know how to pronounce that. I don't know what they print either, to be honest. Sorry. But he explained sort of the history of some recent paper shortages. Many printers had to shut down during the pandemic. They weren't, when it first started, they weren't able to have people working in close proximity. Boom, you've got less paper production. And on top of that, the demand at the time for magazines and books was still high. For comics was still high. People were at home. They wanted something to do. They wanted to read their comics. Well, was tougher because of how printers weren't able to do that. Right there at the beginning, I'm sure you guys can still remember, Marvel and DC literally weren't publishing for a little while, and they canceled a lot of projects that never came back and delayed others. There was a manga drought happened with them too. So what's happened now? Well, now the sales slow. Okay, like they back up, but now they're slowed down at this point compared to like where the demand was when people were all sort of stuck at home. So the demand has gone down a little bit. With the lower demand, printers now have to ratchet down what they're printing. They don't need tons of extra paper for no reason. And so now that's going to lead in turn to a low capacity on paper as the demand ramps back up. So there's also the fact that a lot of printing used to be done in countries like China because it was cheaper. A lot was also done up in Canada where they've got more wood to make into paper pulp. And so some of that was a little cheaper, but a lot was done overseas these days. A lot was done overseas where it's cheaper. Well, China specifically is still dealing with a massive lockdown. On top of that, they've got all sorts of weird censorship issues. They won't publish certain things if they think it is, against their political leanings. So we're in the process of the West and specifically America trying to build up our own print facilities. Just to be clear, it's very similar to my sister's got a good one. What will Dunder Mifflin do? Yeah. This is the same reason why we don't really have microchips for cars, for Xboxes, etc. That's why some technology is still really hard to come across because of overseas, specifically China, having these lockdowns. And America is very much in the process of creating microchip manufacturing as well, so that we don't have to be as reliant on these countries. We got to a point where, like, hey, they can produce it cheapest. We don't need to produce much. Well, now we're at the point where we're like, well, we still need it. And if they ain't producing it, we got to get back to producing a lot of this stuff ourselves. Like, this is serious business. But paper is the one that's related to us. Because, yeah, you can always do digital copies, but not many companies want to do just digital. They need to be ready to do both at the same time. Less comic book ads. I don't quite get what that means. Sorry. The only reason we don't have manufacturing is labor cost. Yeah, we were able to outsource that to a lot of other countries because the cost of labor is so much cheaper in so many other countries like India and Cambodia and China, even more like modern competitive countries like South Korea and Japan. But yeah, we're in the process still of like, well, we need it. So even if it costs a little bit more, it's still very much in demand, and we need to like be able to produce this stuff ourselves. So just be on the lookout. Next year, there may be another period of publishers having to scale back what they've said that they're going to make. That some of these things might get delayed or even canceled. I won't be surprised. I won't be surprised. There's too many. I feel like I come across hardly any ads in comics. I'll be honest. I used to love the ads in comics in like the 80s and 90s. I thought that they were entertaining. Seeing like what video games and crazy toys and stuff were out there when I was younger. I used to love the ads. I did. I'm sorry to hear that they annoy some of you guys now. Maybe they are bad. Let me just pick up one of the issues that I read this week and like at random and see what there was for ads, because I guess I sort of didn't really notice. Let me switch things up here real quick. Okay, so we've got a house ad for a Marvel book. Whoops, hold on. Next thing is, again, house ad for Stanley's birthday. That's fair. Let me see. A Marvel Bullpen Bulletin. Well, I like to hear what the people that make this stuff are up to. An ad for another house ad for a Marvel book. And a house ad for a Marvel book. Just house ads. Oh, and M&M's on the back. Okay, so what else do we have? Let me get something else. We'll grab an image book to see what they do. No ad there on the inside page. Whoops. Yeah, all story pages. All right. Issues over. We've got a house ad for image. We've got one. Oh, no, this isn't even an ad. It's more of a preview, but I guess you could call that an ad. An ad for the next issue of Nocterra. Okay, so they don't really do anything. Who else might do? Did I have a... let's see what DC does. Batman. Batman is like, if they're going to have an ad, it's going to be in Batman. That's one of the highest published books. I've got an ad for the Kubert School, but that's comic book related. I would think a lot of people would love to know about that. Let's see. We've got a house ad for Batman, Catwoman specifically. What else do we have for ads? A house ad for another Batman book. House ad for Dark Crisis, Lazarus Planet. House ad for Batman Spawn. House ad for Lazarus Planet. Is this the stuff you guys are talking about that annoys you? Like, I agree there's a bunch of house ads, but it's not an ad. An ad for Flashpoint Beyond. Doom Patrol TV show. Titans. It's all pretty targeted stuff, but is that the stuff you guys are talking about that annoy you? I don't know. Let's see. Jim in the 80s, the ads were very much a fun part of Gateway Comics and the letters pages. I agree. I read every single page when I would get comics back then. Even the ads. I would read through the weird ads. Oh, I got some weird back issues. Let me pull up a back issue just to compare it. Let me find something back here. What do I have? Is this Rocket Raccoon? I don't know. I can't remember off the top of my head if this is late 80s or what. But let's see how it compares. This is an interesting conversation. Ads in comics. Are there too many? Yeah, some of the ads were really cool. Like those Hostess ads were really funny. I agree, Rick. I agree. Let's see. Okay, so there's going to be some real ads back here because this was, there was no internet to advertise on. So we start with a house ad. This was a comic from 1985. Okay, 1985. This is old enough that you can see. Okay. Wow, early Mike Mignola art. An ad for Oreo cookies. So there you go. That's something we don't see anymore. An ad for a fitness thing. Oh, for barbells and weight benches. Okay, we could order that. An ad for Reese's Pieces. And obviously, that's sort of capitalizing off of E.T. without using E.T. Got an ad for Bonkers Candy. Wow, lots of sugar advertised to kids back then. I'd sort of forgotten about how much there was. What else? Join the NFL Super Pro Club today. This is not NFL Super Pro, the comic book. You just get a bunch of things like calendars and stickers branded with the NFL. Okay. These are the things that I bet both Jim and I read through a lot. Oh, hold on. Super chat. I always want to acknowledge that. Whoops. Your Patriots trailing Arizona 13-10. Got a chance still. Oh yeah, Andy Kuhn with a great one there. The Count Dante ads. I've made an episode on Comic Tropes about the crazy ads the comics used to have. I really recommend it. But I used to pour over something like this. Cash for prizes. Let me turn the light on to show you this a little more. So this was a thing where you could sell magazines or something like that. Let's see. Pick up your prize from Olympics full cash prize catalog. Yeah. Anyway, I guess basically you would sell them these kind of things from a catalog, and then you could earn points to get some of this stuff yourself. Cabbage Patch miniatures, a Kodak Winter Pocket Instamatic camera, a boat kit, boombox, cassette recorder, electric organ, Panasonic portable TV, folks. Ooh, if you sell 10 items, you could get the TV. Look at that. You could get a TV. Oh, wait, no, that's 68 items. 68 items to sell it. But that's what I would do. I would pour over this. Records or tapes, sell 7 items. A digital clock, sell 22 items. A microscope, if you sell 16 items. So, I don't know. I don't think that this would be legal anymore, honestly, to allow kids to do this kind of work. But you used to be able to get a catalog, and you could sell the things that this Olympic company made, and then you could say, okay, I sold 7 things, so I'll trade that in for a walkie-talkie set. It was kind of fun. It was I never did that, but it was kind of about it because I'd be looking at every single so that's an example. That's a very specific example where I would look at every bit of that ad and daydream about did I want that thing. Dungeons and Dragons adventure games, sell 9 items. So I just pour over that as a kid. I used to really like the ads. Maybe they should make ads like that in comics again, where there's just so much detail. And then they add these, lots of little different ads. You can get issues from different places. Or this place sold, sort of gimmick gag gifts, fake dog mess, hot pepper bubblegum. You could learn at home karate, could learn how to bodybuild from skinny to terrific, how to break dance. This costs $3.45 plus plus $1.25 in shipping. And what would you get for that? You'd get a guide, step-by-step instructions, and a champion breakdancer certificate. I love these ads. Free trick. Hilarious practical joke. Free when you send for world-famous fun catalog of over 1,800 novelties. So basically, if you asked for their catalog of stuff they were selling, they'd give you a free trick. But it was always something stupid, like, pull a coin from behind your best friend's ear and tell us in his ear. That's a trick. Yeah, bullpen bulletins, that's still been there. And then this talks about the creative team. Oh, look at this. I made an episode about this one. This was when Marvel and NASA teamed up together for a brief period in time. That all fell apart and led to a bunch of lawsuits. I've got a small episode about that. And how sad. But I would say that they used to have more ads in the older comics. I guess all I can say is I used to look at like, oh, Bonkers gum, I think I want that. And I'd look at that way more seriously. Maybe they have too many ads. Yeah, the news back, and we'll continue because I've got one more piece of news that I want to go over. Oops, too fast. This is the Flash with the keyboard here. $3.45 was minimum wage in 1985. By the way, how crazy is it to think about that? 1985. That's almost what, like 40 years ago? And the minimum wage was $3.45. There's some states where the minimum wage is only something like $7.50 right now. Like basically like not quite twice what it was 40 years ago. No, it should be a lot more. You can draw. I'm impressed. I don't know that I drew anything that great so far tonight. I was just having some fun doodling. Just coming up with like a teleportation portal here. I want to talk about some more news, though. This is my last piece of news. I saw a list compiled for the year of the 10 best-selling manga titles of 2022 with the actual counts. So let's go through them real quick because this is interesting. Kaiju number 8 is, I think, known as Monster number 8 here in America. I think sometimes it's called Kaiju number. That one sold 3,000 plus copies. 3 million. We're talking 3,139,803 copies. Do not say mystery. That's a mystery comic, obviously. Just a notch over. Instead of 3,139,000, we've got 3,140,000. Chainsaw Man does jump up a little bit over here. 3.4 million. Blue Lock. Blue Lock is a sports manga. That jumps up to 3.5 million copies. This is just for 2022, by the way. Look at those numbers. We wish we had those numbers. Well, Batman sells like around 100,000 a month. So if you add Batman up over a year, I guess you get a little over 1.1, 1.2 million, maybe 1.5, somewhere around there for the. But it's like about half of what these are. And there's like a fantasy history book. That's but My Demon, that's one that I really enjoyed. Jump to now we're going to 5.3 million copies last year. One Piece, get ready for a huge jump forward. Look at this jump from 5 million to 10.3 million copies sold. Now, why is that? It's got a huge back catalog, so it's a little easier to sell more back issues, get new readers reading a bunch of stuff, which makes it all the more impressive when we see what Spy Family has done. This is an explosive, newer title. There's only like 8 Tankobon volumes out for this. It's only been out for a year or two versus One Piece is like 25 years. But 10.6 million copies. 10.6 million. I've recommended it. Spy Family could well end up in my top 10 comics of the year. I really like this book. It's funny. I love a funny book. Tokyo Revengers. I have been talking about that the last 2 weeks. Only just got into it myself, so I'm part of these numbers here. We're jumping up to 11 million copies sold of Tokyo Revengers. Pretty cool stuff. And finally, the number one for the year. I bet you've heard of it, even if you haven't read it. If you've gone through a comic or bookstore, you've probably seen Jujutsu Kaisen. 12.2 million copies. Wow. Huge numbers. Huge numbers. Just amazing. Let's see. I never catch these live, but hi from Tokyo. Just visiting. Okay. Hope you're having a great time in Tokyo. I definitely hope to be back in 2023. Fingers crossed. Oh, thank you, by the way, Randall. Let me mention this since we're talking about manga and Japan and stuff like that. As of right now, the plan is for me to have Ed Piskor join us as a guest for next week. I hope that still goes through. Ed just got back from a trip to Tokyo, and so he would be able to tell us about what it's like to table at a Tokyo Comic-Con convention, as well as all the different cool manga that he picked up while he was over there. He picked up a lot. So you might want to check out his YouTube channel that he does with Jim Rugg. That's Cartoonist Kayfabe. And they're going to be going through a bunch of that manga. But I thought it would be fun to sort of talk to him and get more of the personal side of things of what his experience was. So that's next week, as long as he's caught up on his jet lag. But he should be. He should be. So that's something we're talking about. I'd love to have a few more guests on here and there. Always interesting to talk to a pro, get like their 2 cents on the industry and stuff. But I know some people might not want to issue opinions on the news and stuff like that. You don't want to like get labeled as difficult or anything weird like that. But anyway, something I might keep doing in the future. Whoops, hold on. No, you don't. Blocked. Oh, that's how you know you're starting to be successful, is when you get those chat bots. That's how you know. As long as we're on this news story real quick, before I sort of wrap the show up, there is, how many of you out there read any of these titles? The ones I am currently reading include Chainsaw Man. I need to get caught up on it. I'm up to date on My Hero Academia and Spy Family, and I'm still catching up on Tokyo Revengers. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 that I'm reading. I've read a bunch of One Piece, but it's just such a massive undertaking. I needed a break. And it's not my favorite. It's interesting, but it's not my favorite. But maybe that grows on you. It's such a huge story. All right, let's take that out. Yeah. Ed definitely, I agree, speaks his mind. I agree with you. Let's see. I got to Tokyo too late for Tokyo Comic-Con, but I got tickets for Comic-Con later this month. Good. I saw a whole store devoted to One Piece yesterday. Isn't that amazing? Isn't it? What was your comic tropes growing up? A source of learning about comics. Oh, what did I use to learn about comics? Oh, wow. I'll be honest. I was really getting into comics before there was Wizard, and certainly before there was an internet. So you sort of took whatever you could get, which was a wild mix of stuff. Sometimes you'd find a comics journal magazine at a store, and I'd pick that up. There was also Comic Scene, but that was a pretty, like, what would I call it? Like tabloidy type of magazine that like used a lot of glossy pictures, not like too deep for the articles. I would read everything though. Sometimes you just get the Overstreet price guide for that year and read. They'd always have a couple articles in that year's thing talking about the history of an aspect of comics. I would read the bullpen bulletins in Marvel Comics, the Meanwhile opinion pieces in DC. Um, there's this thing called Comic Shop News that would be out in some comic book stores. It's like a weekly, simple folded newspaper, just like a couple pages, and mostly books. You'd find just books talking about specific pieces of history or a creator. So, yeah, I went to the library and I would check out books, anything that I could find that had to do with books. There might be a book about like Popeye, for instance, or the golden age of comics, or just one that tries to tell all of comic book history, like Jim Steranko tried to do. Uh, Wait, there used to be no internet? Oh, my wife is so young. When I first got into comics, there was the Buyer's Guide to Comics Fandom. I don't think I really know that one, Andy. I don't think I really know that one. That sounds interesting. I remember Comic Shop News used to collect them. I was also a little bit lucky in that the local comic shop I would go to, which wasn't 100% local, but the one that I would go to, NEC, was a pretty successful chain. So they would actually publish their own monthly newsletter. It actually even would have like the first appearance of the Tick in it. They also had like a monkey character. I want to say his name was Bongo. So they had a couple little comics, and then they would have a couple little articles, as well as listing their back issue inventory, which I would actually like read just that. I would just like read through all these back issue lists and stuff like that. I was starved for reading about anything about comics. So, if there was ever an opinion piece or a letter column or article in the comic itself, I read it. And I guess for the most part, it stayed up here. Yeah, Amazing Heroes was decent. I rarely came across that one. It was a weekly ad-based paper. Oh, I just didn't come across that. My sister here saying check that card catalog for comics. Oh yeah, at the library. I would like look it up by like topics and subjects, and I would then like try to see. Oh, it was hard. It was hard back then. You had to know how to read a card catalog to look for things, and then you just might like go like, okay, this author wrote a book about comics. Let's look up what else that author has written, and maybe co-authored a book. And so then you look up that author. Those are the things you were looking for. Yeah, Marvel Age was like an industry comic about Marvel comics, but I'd read that. Whoops, I was trying to click on this. Remember DC's Direct Currents? It was a free monthly thing my local shop would get. No, I didn't get that one. My store definitely didn't have DC's Direct Currents. I'm curious about that as well. And then, of course, eventually there was Wizard, and that sort of became the industry publication for actually, all things considered, a relatively brief window, but a couple years there. And then the internet exploded and sort of went faster than Wizard could keep up with. But I grew up before all of that was prevalent. So you basically just take whatever paper newsletters were at your comic book store. You'd read every comic page to page, cover to cover, for including like the letters pages, and you would go to the library. Yeah, you could read Previews magazine. I have to admit that was never something I got into. I just respect it, but I never got into that. DC still has a direct. Do they? Okay, nice. My elementary school classmates in rural Iowa were obsessed with comics. 7 males in our class. Don't know what females were doing. Okay. Yep. Marvel fanfare. Yep. Watch out for the internet exploding. It gets messy. It does. Interesting question. We went on a couple of tangents here talking about things like AI art and what we each sort of learned to learn about comics. I didn't expect to cover those things, but that was really fun and interesting. Thank you. That's part of why I love talking with all of you guys. You never know which direction the conversations are going to go. We always go down a few interesting alleyways. I'll call it that. Sounds a little sus, but that's okay. Comics should stay a little dangerous, you know? Comics should stay a little bit off the beaten path. They're fairly mainstream these days with the movies and everything, but I think comics should stay a little bit dangerous. Push the envelope a little creatively with what you can get away with. Let's see. Gene says, I used my brother to learn about comics. That's fair. It was fun to be able to talk about them because that's a thing also, you know, like all the way up through high school, at least, I really didn't have anybody that wanted to talk about comics for the most part, even within my friend circle. And if you talked about it in like study hall or gym with someone, you literally might have an upperclassman come over and just like punch you for talking about something so nerdy. That was definitely a real thing. Culture has changed so much. You know, that's a rumor, Makoto, that could have a little bit of truth to it. I've never been able to find any confirmed stories about the organized crime working with comics. The rumors probably start because organized crime did have their fingers in a lot of printing back in the day, at least up through the 60s or so, probably so that they had access to the technology to potentially counterfeit. That's a little bit of speculation, but that's probably why they, and as well as launder money. And some of those printers would publish comics, but were the comics creators and the organized crime really like, you know, interacting in any meaningful way? I've yet to come across any stories that really confirm that. Everything I've read is speculation. It's an interesting potential story, but I haven't really come across that. The other area that organized crime absolutely was involved with was distribution, though. They controlled most of the smaller distributors back in the day, and you used to be able to return comics if they didn't sell by like tearing off the cover and just returning the cover, and the publisher, like, you know, Marvel or DC, would give the distributor a refund, and the distributor could, like, you know, in turn give that to the stores. But I know sometimes the stores themselves did this, but I'm positive I've come across stories where distributors actually also would just sort of like gather them all up and sell them, like, you know, on the black market, basically, just like for, you know, nickels and dimes. But yeah, I think it may have been Mob Money that started Charlton Comics. That is an article that I read about, but I don't have any real confirmation of the publishers and writers at Charlton working with them. I think that Charlton, if I'm remembering right, Charlton did get started because like a printer that was successful decided to get into producing some of their own content. I'll have to look to double check. And I know that there was an article at one point that, like, hey, you know, one of the guys that ran Charlton and one of the guys in like organized crime spent some time together in jail, but there's no real hard evidence that they met or knew each other there. There's not enough hard evidence for me to have made an episode yet. Anyway, that's as good a time as any, though, to wrap things up. Time tonight, folks. Thank you so much for being here. Looks like the next thing I need to do to upgrade the live show is to pay for the next tier of bandwidth for uploads. I need to improve that. So something I'm going to working on. Thank you so much for being here with me while I doodled and talked about comic news and talked about the comics. Again, the ones that I had the most fun with this week were, we'll definitely do a Powerbomb. There was a lot of good stuff this week, though, because I thought the Batman was a strong conclusion to that arc. I thought Nocterra was great. I thought Punisher was really strong. Fantastic Four is starting really interesting. And these are some mainstream comics, some of them, but yeah. And manga-wise, Tokyo Revengers. I got to just blast through that. I hope I get some more for Christmas. What else should I talk about? Oh, working on the next Comic Tropes episode. I'll tell you what's frustrated me. I'm always working on more than one comic tropes episode at a time. You know, like I'm actively writing, recording, and editing one, but I'm always reading the comics or taking notes for future ones. I had my idea for the next episode after the one that I'm currently sort of finalizing and editing and everything. Today, I was like, wait, what was that topic I was doing? And all day, it's just been totally blank. And I'm hoping it just comes back to me because I know I had a banger of an idea. And all of a sudden, I feel like an old man because I've completely forgotten the topic that I wanted to do. I've completely forgotten it. I hadn't written it down. I was working things out in my head. And now it's blanked. But anyway, I thought that was a little funny that I can just completely forget something so important. And I'm working on my top 10 comics of the year. So for people especially that are watching this archived, I'd love to hear in the comments what your choices were for your favorite comics of the entire year. I'd love to hear that on social media and stuff like that as well. I think I've got, about 70% of my list locked in, but I'm still curious to hear what people were passionate about this year. I'm going to take off, folks. It was awesome seeing and talking to all of you. Thank you very, very much for being here. It means a lot to me. Until I see you next time, you're going to get the Devil Salute. And I also want you to keep reading comics. Take care. Bye.